when I'm not doing my best just to count in a song.
1, 2, 3, yay! 1, 2, 3, yay!
That doesn't count as a count in.
1, 2, 3,
I'll count myself in. How about that? 1, 2, 3. I like to answer questions that I get on YouTube, so let's get to it. Okay, Sean, I have 2 questions for the next QA. What are some drawbacks of a cheap electric guitar other than the buzzing? What I mean is that how can it affect a player's performance? Can it affect the tightness of the sound or the pressure one needs to apply on each string, etc.? Not sure if this is a real question or not. I see a lot of electric guitar players use fingerpicking instead of using a pick. I can see some cases when fingerpicking would be beneficial, but other than that, what are subtle advantages of fingerpicking over using a pick? How does the tone, etc. vary from one versus the other? So first of all, from like a cheap electric guitar to like an expensive electric guitar, a lot of it comes down to like the country of origin, which is the price, right? So when you say like buzzing, that means your guitar just needs a setup. So one of the things that you're paying up for by getting maybe like an American-made guitar or like a British-made guitar or German-made guitar or something like that is usually the quality control is going to be way better. So the setup that you're going to get right out of the box is going to be fantastic. Like this D'Angelico, I've never had to touch it. Amazing guitar. That doesn't mean that you can't get a cheaper guitar to sound great. You just might have to spend a little bit more money just kind of getting into it. That's why a setup is super, super important. If it's fretting out, if it's buzzing, if the action is bad, just take it to somebody who knows what they're doing and they should be able to get it in working order and get it to play just like anything else. Now, one of the disadvantages of having a cheaper guitar long term, and I remember the first one of the first good guitars I got was like a Mexican Fender Strat, which was an absolute beast of a guitar. It was fantastic. I loved that thing. It sounded really great. It sounded just as good as the American Strats for about 6 years, and then it kind of started to fall apart. So again, one of the things that you're paying up for is the quality of like the hardware and the components. So again, that was a great guitar for like 5-6 years, and then the electronics started going bad, kind of like the input jack started coming loose, a lot of the hardware started to loosen up, stuff like that, and it needed a lot of work. So I think you can get great deals on some of the cheaper, specifically Chinese-made stuff, but you have to get it set up or learn how to do setup stuff yourself. I'm totally a poser when it comes to that, but there's no reason that you can't get a cheaper electric guitar to sound good. As far as using a pick versus finger picking and stuff like that, there's a lot of advantages and disadvantages to each. So for the most part, finger picking allows you to just do different things. Like you can do kind of like Travis picking, which you can't use with just a pick unless you're hybrid picking or something like that. And there's like a little bit more of a percussive thing that you could do, but you can still kind of simulate that with a pick, like a... and then with a pick. So one thing that you might hear already is that the attack of a pick is much sharper, it's much cleaner than the pads of your fingers or thumb. Now you can get away with stuff like that, like if you just wanted to do like a lead thing, like that was with a pick, you could use the back of your fingernail. And it kind of gets the same effect, but I think one advantage of a pick is even when you're doing something kind of like strumming with a lot of mutes, like something like that you can do with your fingers, it's always going to sound better or more even, maybe not better, but more even with a pick, because the downstrokes and the upstrokes are getting the exact same piece of plastic, whereas if you're using your fingers, you might go down with the nail, up with the pad of your finger, stuff like that. That's why like a lot of like finger style players use a compressor to kind of even that out. So it does give kind of a softer tone that you might want just playing finger style, but generally it's not going to be as even as the sound of playing with a pick. That doesn't mean you should gravitate one way or another. Personally, if I'm recording something, I almost always use a pick just because it seems to be cleaner and it cuts through a mix a little bit more, whereas like the pads of your fingers are a little bit softer of an attack. But I do think there's something to just kind of like the organic nature of just using your fingers and getting accustomed to, the relationship between your body and the guitar. I didn't start using a pick till I was playing for like 2 years, and it was a little bit of a transition, but in the long term, you know, it took a couple months, and then I was like really happy with it. Another advantage of using a pick is if you want to do kind of like tremolo or like faster stuff, you can do that with your finger. But again, there's going to be an unevenness because it's kind of like, you can see there's a dynamic on the downstrokes where you can kind of get it a little more even with a pick. So again, really whatever gets you to practice, you can get great results either way. Piano is not to talk about, but to practice. People want to hear the sound of piano rather than hear talking about piano. That is our latest piano comment of the week. Piano is meant to be played and not to be spoken of. Sean, how much time do you spend rehearsing with your vocalists? Who is typically in charge? Could you tell how you conduct your rehearsals? Do you record them? Do you use a metronome? How do you come to agree on a set list? Who does the bookings, the marketing, and other legwork that is involved? Perhaps this might be a useful idea for a future upload. Thanks. So the funny thing about doing the covers or the gigs with any of the girls is it all starts out the exact same way. We'll meet early on in the relationship. They're very open to my suggestions. And maybe learning a song that I might want to do. And then invariably, inevitably, over time, they have no interest in doing any of the music that I want to, and they kind of totally take control of the entire program, which, again, could just be a microcosm of something bigger. So yeah, if you guys have any requests, they probably will not be heard. I'll pitch it to them, but I'm really very, very powerless when it comes over the type of musical content that I do with them on this channel. Now, a lot of it is just kind of a finesse of finding common ground where it's something that we're both interested in, but usually that's just me cycling through hundreds of suggestions until we find something we agree on, or they just finally break me down into playing a song that I don't really want to do, and I'm just trying to entertain myself doing. As far as rehearsals go, it's really just kind of running through the set list once, and not even the full set. Like if we're doing like a 2-hour show, rehearsals will generally be less than 2 hours because it's almost like once you have your core group of songs down, you maybe just run through the first part of it just to kind of get like some of the beats down, like how many times am I going around an intro or a musical break. We generally don't play the entire song. We never really record it. We never really practice to a metronome. That's almost always all on me, just as the acoustic guitar accompaniment. As far as like the marketing and the legwork, I usually make them handle most of that, but the venue does help out too, because it's not really my main thing playing out. I do enjoy it a lot, and I do it a lot, but I almost kind of have the frame of mind that I'm just showing up. Again, none of this is advice. This is just how I end up doing it. So when it comes to who's the boss, the girls are always in charge 100% of the time. And if you want to maybe kind of recreate something like that on your own, the sooner you understand that, the better. You look like an old Pewds. Yeah, I get it. I get compared to PewDiePie daily. I like how it's not enough to just compare me to PewDiePie. Now there are different versions of PewDiePie. Like a whiter PewDiePie, an older PewDiePie, a less successful PewDiePie. If you have the time, please do more of these Riff Deconstructions. That was great. Thank you very much. This was a comment on the Taking Care of Business. Great song, great riff. Definitely check that out. So the riff deconstruction videos are ones I've done a lot of over the years, but what's funny is they're traditionally like my least watched videos, and I think if you follow this channel at all, you probably understand that I'm not really trying to like, or I don't tailor my content to get the most amount of views. It's really just kind of like whatever I'm feeling. However, the feedback to the videos does play some kind of a role. Like I was gonna make that video as soon as I got the idea for an intro joke, but if they were super popular videos, I would probably be thinking about doing more of them. So, you know, when it comes to the content that you guys want to see, it's not like I'm totally oblivious to the fact of like, well, this is gonna get a lot of views, this isn't gonna get a lot of views. And while that isn't like the driving motivation behind me making a certain video, stuff like comments and views and likes, like to dislike ratio do play somewhat of a factor in what I'm gonna kind of like try to rack my brain spending more time making. So it is kind of weird that the riff deconstruction videos tailed off a lot because I think that's like such a great way to kind of like teach and demonstrate certain kind of like aspects of songwriting, guitar playing, lick writing, stuff like that. But anyways, if you have any suggestions for more riff deconstruction videos, I'll definitely do them, but it might not be like a once a week thing like I originally had anticipated doing them. Too boring. This guitar player has no teaching skills. I got confused. It's boring and you got confused. Kind of salty. Maybe you just suck at learning. Hey man, you've probably gotten this question a lot, but I haven't noticed it yet. Do you learn by ear or YouTube, or do you buy sheet music? I may have addressed this before, but it's pretty much totally by ear, and it almost always has been, with the help and aid of ultimateguitar.com. I know we talk a lot of mess about Ultimate Guitar, but I really think it's like the greatest resource for quickly learning a song. It's such a wealth of information that is pretty much free unless you try to buy the app and use it in any kind of reasonable way. But really, because of Ultimate Guitar, that really is probably the best resource in learning. And I think it's great just because just to have a chord sheet, even just like the tabs of something, I don't use so much anymore. Like when it comes to learning new songs, I'll just like look at the chords. It's great to have that chord chart in front of you and then be able to figure it out. So it's not completely by learning by ear. I mean, sometimes I do. I do hardly ever watch YouTube videos to help me figure a song out. But again, Ultimate Guitar is just, I can't say enough good things about it, even though we kind of all love to hate it for valid reasons. But you know, that's kind of the way that I taught guitar and the way that, and a website that I still go to almost every day to kind of help myself figure things out. So for listening homework this week, I'm going to throw to a band that I used to really dig, but I haven't heard a lot from recently. Silver Sun Pickups. Definitely some awesome stuff early on. I know they've had stuff since then, but it's one of those things where I kind of prefer the earlier stuff. Anyways, definitely a cool band from back in the day. Let me know what you think. If you have any comments or questions, hit me up in the comment section, Instagram, Twitter, or the website. I'll talk to y'all soon. Thanks a lot.